Welcome, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, middle of the night snack, wherever you are in the world. We're glad that you're here. This is Spirit Matters coming at you live from New York City. I'm Dayal Gurunga here with Kishore Chandra. We had Achyuta Gopi with us for a quick second, and then she did the log back out, log back in thing, but she hasn't logged back in yet. So we're gonna see if she logs back in and joins us. Otherwise, we'll get rolling and we'll see where we go. This is your daily Bhakti Center podcast, your daily check-in with self, with others. We know that life is too hard to do it alone. It's just way too hard to do it alone. And so we started this podcast as an effort to be like, you know what? We're gonna show up every morning, except the days that we don't, and we're and we're just gonna connect with you. And we've been sharing the Bhagavad Gita. We've been reading the Bhagavad Gita, a daily piece of light in our life, some spiritual wisdom, some spiritual connection, some spiritual reflection. We hope you take something home with you. We love our live Zoom studio audience that tunes in with us. If you want to tune in live with the Zoom, you can go to bhakticenter.org and find our Spirit Matters link and tune in there. And how you doing, Kishore?
I'm doing well. Last night was very interesting. We had Thursday night kirtan, and it was very nice. It was a very nice kirtan. But I did something spontaneous, which I haven't done in a really long time,
Uh-oh.
which was like stay and be social for a very long time.
Ooh.
Yeah, I was like, someone was like, "Do you want to go to dinner?" And I was like,
No. Was like, oh, no,
normally I would
yes.
say never. Normally I would say absolutely not. It's 10 p.m. and I'm rushing to get home to sleep. But I was like, sure, why not? And I went to dinner with this like very dear community member and friend, and we had a
Who
nice
was it?
conversation. It was our dear Zoe Buckman.
Oh, you went out with Zoe.
Yeah, and I was
That's
just, and
great.
it
And
was so
Katie
much
too, or
fun.
just Zoe?
Yeah, yeah, and Katie. It was
Aw.
so much fun, and I was just like, God, like I would have never done this in like my old, way, but I was feeling very spontaneous and light. So I'm paying for the consequences this morning because I'm like barely awake, but it was great. So I'm doing great.
Achuta, we're glad that you logged back in. We're with us. We're just checking in. How are you doing this morning?
I'm good. I'm good. Blessed. I'm here.
She's blessed. She's feeling sheltered.
That's the one.
All right. And I'm just grateful to be with you guys. I'm grateful for our crew, grateful for all of you, grateful for just the opportunity to be here. So let's go ahead and dive in. We've been reading from chapter 2 of the Gita. We're in this section near the end of the Gita, about 3/4, 7/8 of the way through the second chapter, where Krishna's talking about the qualities of somebody living from the place of the soul, and what it means to live from the place of the soul in this world, bringing spirituality into the practicality. And we've talked a little bit about what do we talked about? You guys wanna catch us up to speed?
I can catch us up. So the main questions, just to refresh everyone very quickly, are what are the symptoms of someone who is in this Krishna consciousness or situated in a place of transcendence with God? What are the general symptoms? How does that person speak? How do they sit? And how do they walk? And so we've gone through the general symptoms, and then we started getting into the answers that Krishna gives for how does this person speak. And specifically by how does this person speak, what's being asked by Arjuna is like, how do they respond to the externals of life? Like how do they respond when things go well or don't go well, or when they receive praise or when they don't receive praise, or when some suffering comes into their life? So we read this verse yesterday, chapter 2, verse 56. And I think we'll start there again because we got into it, but just to again give a recap, Krishna starts giving this answer to how does the person speak. And Krishna says that this person is not disturbed in mind, even amidst the threefold miseries. They're not elated when there is happiness, and they are free from attachment, fear, and anger. And that person is called a sage of steady mind. And specifically yesterday, we really got into this conversation in the purport where Srila Prabhupada is speaking about like sufferings, when sufferings come into life, the constant onslaught, I like that word, onslaught of the threefold miseries. This sage of steady mind is thinking to himself that this misery is coming into my life actually by the grace of the Lord, which is like kind of intense. And we got into that a little bit yesterday, but I just wanted to read one more thing from the purport to kind of take that point a little further, and then I want to hear your all thoughts, because I thought it was a really sweet thing. So in this purport, Srila Prabhupada is saying that this person is not disturbed, right? And they see that these uncomfortable situations are part of, the bigger divine plan. But then he says, for the service of the Lord, he is always daring and active and is not influenced by attachment or aversion. And specifically, attachment to the things that bring me happiness and aversion to things that bring me suffering. And so then Srila Prabhupada says, attachment means accepting things for one's own sense gratification. And detachment is the absence of such sensual attachment. And I really love this. But one fixed in Krishna consciousness has neither attachment nor detachment, because his life is dedicated in the service of the Lord. Consequently, he is not at all angry, even when his attempts are unsuccessful. Success or no success, a Krishna conscious person is always steady in his determination. And I thought that was really, really maybe a nice place to start from, because it's a really nice goal. I don't necessarily feel that way all the time, that I'm like always fixed in my determination. But it's really nice to hear that from Srila Prabhupada. And it does make me feel like, wow, if I'm really practicing this Krishna consciousness, and I felt that before, like it will feel like I'm not going to be disturbed. I'm not going to go off my path. Some inconvenience isn't going to throw me off my relationship with Krishna. I'm not going to blame it on him, so it's a nice litmus test to see, like, where am I? Did some inconvenience like really throw me off, and am I having like really, really like a crisis of faith, or what's going on here? So I would love to hear your thoughts, because I've been talking for a while.
Question: is there a verse that comes to mind when we hear the phrase steady in their determination?
I mean, there's verses from Bhagavad Gita that come to mind, but always whenever I hear about people enduring and being steady in their determination, it always makes me think of that verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter 14, Tattenakam Shamanu, which is one of those, like, it's like a hallmark verse, and one of those when you've really gone through it and you've endured the actions and reactions of all the past karma, all the while having faith in the mercy of Krishna, then in essence these blessings become your birthright. And to say that mercy and blessings from Krishna's favor becomes your birthright, is sort of paradoxical, because if it's your birthright, you've already had it. Like it was coming no matter what. But I really do like the idea that enduring the challenges of life is almost like your entry ticket into that realization, into it becoming an actual fact. And so it's like, he is entitled to Krishna's favor because it has become his rightful claim, or their rightful claim, whoever it is. And I never used to like that verse, because it took me a while to get through the part of the, like, you have to endure. And then thinking about Prahlad Maharaj, who's 5, and telling his classmates, like, look, does anybody really ask for a fever? I'm like, well, no. It's like, well, how does it come? Like, it just happens. It's like, exactly. And so that happiness and distress is going to inevitably just arrive. There is no one who can say, yeah, but I've only had suffering. I know we like to say that, but it's never actually true. We have had high times and low times, both of them, and they do arrive by the processes of material nature, which Krishna will get into a little bit later in Bhagavad Gita. So I like that the endurance is really like you are playing a supreme game of survivor, and your job is to literally like outlast. It's to outlast the tuggings of the mind in either direction, so many directions. And not to say that we should be like cardboard and unfeeling and just like matte and have we're all robots with no kinds of emotions. Nobody should really be too happy. Nobody should really be too sad. We should all sound like Stepford wives. Like that's not, when it comes down to it, it's the tuggings of the mind that bring us away from our devotional service, that bring us away from bringing Krishna the water and finding the joy in remembering that our goal, our identity fully was to bring Krishna his water.
If I were on Survivor, I would definitely form an alliance with the Chuta.
Everybody always wants to form an alliance. I'm telling you. I don't know if I'm the best person though. I don't know if I'm so good.
I think so. I think we'd get far until one of us betrayed the other.
It would most likely be me.
I didn't want to say it. And you would end up on top.
That's the problem with these games. Whenever we play games like that, and everybody's always kind of surprised. And they're like, "But you lied." I was like, "But that's the point of the game."
Yeah, I also won.
They keep expecting me not to lie in the game.
I wasn't thinking of that verse from Bhagavatam, but I'm glad you brought it up. I was thinking of the verse from Bhagavad Gita 9:30, where Krishna talks about that even despite one's massive stumbling on the path, if one is sincerely, he says, if they're properly situated in their determination, the samyang vyavasito huisaha, this idea of being fixed in their determination, then they're assured of success. And I think that this when Kishore read that phrase, situated in their determination, I think that also harkens a little bit to where we left off yesterday in the idea of, you said there's a time for philosophy and there's a time for love. And I think that so often we think that spirituality is measured by me getting everything right, me fulfilling a list of vows, me following a certain lifestyle, me not, making certain mistakes anymore. Like, and you hear this often in your mind, talking to other people. It's like, I feel like I should be more advanced than I am, or I shouldn't be struggling with this thing anymore after so many years, and whatever it might be. And I really find you use the hallmark of spiritual success is when we just make that determination, like, I am never going away. Like, I am never giving this up. It may look ugly. It may be painful. It may not be pretty. I may, because it's interesting in the verse that you read, it says, not, who is even amidst the threefold miseries, or who is not disturbed in mind amidst the threefold miseries. So when things get really low, or elated when there is happiness. It doesn't, you've mentioned this a lot, Jude. It's not that you don't feel happiness. In fact, actually, when you look in the Sanskrit, it says that without being interested in material happiness, meaning like I don't get deterred and distracted as I'm moving forward, that all of a sudden I've lost track. Like there's that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Madhuri Kandabani uses that word Tarangarangini, the idea of playing in the waves, that there's a deep treasure waiting for us at the bottom of the ocean of spiritual life. And we sometimes get so caught up just playing in the surface waves of things, and we allow it to distract us. And I think that what I'm hearing in this verse from Bhagavad Gita about being even-minded amidst the miseries and happinesses of life, and the verse that you read from Bhagavatam about like even if things are difficult. In the deepest prayer of the gopis in the last verse of the Shikshastakam, like even if Krishna handles me roughly by his embrace, there's this feeling of like, I'm just not gonna give it up. I may have to like hold myself in a corner and cry through the night sometimes because it's just really hard sometimes. But I know that I'm always going to come back to it. There's always going to be a place for me at the table. There is no eternal rejection. And the only thing ever lost at stake or bruised is just my ego. And if I'm willing to let that die, then there is never a spiritual failure. And so I feel like that steadiness and determination for me is, am I willing to put aside the shame, the embarrassment, the guilt of being less than what I thought of materially, and just accepting that I'm just going to keep throwing myself at the process and trusting that Krishna is going to pull me through. And devotees are going to pull me through. And we have to pull each other through.
You know
You
what
guys are pulling me through.
you know what I also love about this verse in the purport is that we start with an idea that not all munis are the goal. In fact, it's like 1% of munis are the goal.
Moonies, sages.
You're going to meet spiritually minded people. You're going to meet sages. You're going to meet devotees. You're going to meet bhakti yogis. You're going to meet people who have labeled themselves. Not all of them are going to be the goal. Maybe not all of them are even going to be your goal. You've got to see what you resonate with. And I really, really love that Srila Prabhupada starts with this definition that, you know, a muni is just somebody trying to make it, right? Like a muni is just somebody trying to make it in contrary nature to how somebody else is making it. He's like, you do know that a muni is just somebody who has disagreed with a whole bunch of other people. And I'm like, what? Like, whoa, that's insane. Like, I had never really, for me, muni is such a respectable title. But I mean, now I understand why Narada Muni is named a muni. Like, I understand why he's named the way he's named. He's like, because they're contrarians. They are like the opposite of everybody else in society. And they go around fixing their lives on being the opposite of what somebody else is. It's just all they are. They've decided we're going to be opposites. We're going to be contrarians. And that sometimes has something to do with spirituality and sometimes not. And so I think that it's so important to really have a gauge of what resonates with us. We should know what our goal is. And that's why Arjuna is smart. Arjuna is so smart because at least he knows, okay, look, my goal is Krishna as my friend, and my friend told me to do this, and I would follow Krishna to the ends of the earth. I would choose him again and again and again. So at least he knows what his goal is, because it's so easy to get caught up, and not always in material world the way you think it is. You know, material world's not like, hi, I'm the material world. I'm here to make your life miserable. Please accept or decline. It's so much more.
Please RSVP by.
It's so much more nuanced than that. And like he's saying, you know, attachment and aversion. What is your goal? Are we attached to our goal? Have we fully committed and decided that we are going to be that annoying friend, like you said, Doyle? Like, I don't care what happens. Krishna, you are my best friend, and I'm not going away. Whether you've agreed to it or not, you're stuck with me. And so I think that this particular purport was really so interesting for me, because it really took me out of that idea that every person who could be a muni is up here on this top tier. Srila Prabhupada often made the emphasis that his devotees were going to be better than so many other spiritually minded people. And not out of any kind of egotistical place, but because he was giving them a singular fixed goal. And Srila Prabhupada was so many of his purports are spent encouraging people not to get distracted by anything else. Don't be distracted by the glitter. Don't be distracted by the fame. Don't be distracted by even the spiritual glitter and the glitz. Don't be distracted. Find Krishna.
I really like that, and I appreciate that highlight, Achyuta, on the definition of the Muni and kind of like the contrarian and just looking at things in a different angle. Because like I was mentioning yesterday, we're in chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita, and there's 16 chapters left. And, you know, we're on a journey, and Arjuna's on a journey. And like you're saying, Achyuta, he's really smart. And Dayal put in the chat, Arjuna was a smart dude, people. And so Arjuna continuously asks questions. He's like, okay, like I've heard this. What's next? You know, like, I don't know if this is going to work. What's next? This is too hard. What's next? And just to kind of close out this section, because the next verse is also kind of a response to this question of how does the sage speak. And it's similar. Srila Prabhupada or Krishna is saying, like, whatever good or evil they may obtain, they're unaffected, right? They're not praising or despising. They're fixed in this knowledge. And like you're saying, Achyuta, like that's not necessarily like the end all be all. And Srila Prabhupada, rather in the purport, is really behooving us to be simply concerned with Krishna. And I really love that. But something that just came to mind and I just wanted to share before we close is that from these verses, something that I was thinking is like, what's really like the practical thing that we can take away from this? Because it's not like I'm going to just like all of a sudden be a Muni and just like, yeah, I'm totally unaffected. And like you were saying, Achyuta, I'm just like cardboard and like nothing affects me. I'm a robot and I'm just like samadhi, like, woo, beam me up. You know, it's like, no. But the thing that
Samadhi beam me up, as if like Scotty beam me up.
Yeah, Samadhi, exactly.
Samadhi beam me up, beam me up, Samadhi.
You have a UFO and it's coming.
Oh my God, that's a T-shirt. Beam me up, Samadhi.
Thank you for getting that reference. Thank you for getting that reference.
Put that in our. Somebody put that in our hashtag phrase spreadsheet.
Wait.
Anyways, go on, Kishore, with your deep philosophical, vulnerable share.
No, it was more of a practical share, less vulnerable. Just like my ideas around being like reactive, you know, like when something happy happens in my life, like how much distance can I have from it, you know? Because like you were saying, Dayal, he's not saying in the verse like don't experience happiness, but don't become so interested in it. It's like, okay, like how much distance can I keep from this? Like a healthy amount, so that I don't become so subsumed and taken over by this, you know? Or when something bad happens, it's like, can I take just a little bit of a step back to know this is, yeah, it's a bump in the road, it's like this or whatever. It's not like an entire character judgment of who I am as a person, so that these moments in life and these ups and downs and these dualities that Srila Prabhupada is speaking about this, and this is what we're talking about, happiness and distress and success and failure, it doesn't throw me off completely. And from a practical level, I think that that's really useful, you know, when we're looking at these verses in Bhagavad Gita. It's like, yeah, okay, I'm not, when things are super duper happy, I'm not going to get lost in it and think that this is how things should be all the time. If it's not this happy, then that means everything's wrong, you know? Or when things don't go my way, or when things aren't so great, I'm going to get lost in the chaos and go into like a super deep, you know, insular hole. It's like, no, how can I have a little bit of detachment from it? How can I stay somewhat steady, because I know that that success is not who I am. I know that that failure is not who I am. How can I kind of just like be in the middle a little bit? And I know we haven't gotten to takeaways yet, but I think that's my takeaway. Just how do I stay in the middle a little bit? But we are up to time.
I was muted. We're up to takeaways. Take us away, Kimberly. What takeaways we got?
I'm taking away that it's okay to make mistakes. There's no such thing as eternal rejection or spiritual failure, because spiritual success is making the determination to stay on the path and to choose Krishna.
Thank you, Kimberly. Closing words. I don't know if that was your closing word, Kishore, but Chuta, you got a closing word?
Well, Kishore was speaking. I was thinking, if we want to, like Arjuna, like really take a gauge to our steadiness of mind and our determination in our Krishna consciousness, we can, and for me, like, this is my gauge. Am I as excited and happy and filled with wonder when a homeless person takes a Bhagavad Gita as I am when a celebrity or a politician or a queen or anyone else picks up a Bhagavad Gita? Is one more worthy of sharing and yelling at to the rooftops to the world as the other? Or am I sometimes, even like the Munis, am I getting distracted by even the spiritual glitz and the glamour and the fame? What makes one more important than the other? And what am I really rejoicing over? That's my takeaway.
Hare Krishna. I am, this verse, it's sort of sequential, that not disturbed in threefold miseries or later when there's happiness, and who's free from attachment, fear, and anger. The sequence of attachment, fear, and anger. That when we become attached, all of a sudden now we have a fear of losing what we've become attached to. And then we experience an anger when it's lost, or we realize we can't hold on to it, etc. And so that this cycle of attachment that leads to fear, that leads to anger. And I think that what we learn also, and what we'll have this, I think, very shortly in upcoming verses, the idea of that we become attached to what we ruminate over and what we fixate our consciousness on. And so I think for me, the question is just this continuous observation and caution of like, what am I allowing myself to become attached to through continuous association, whether it's mental, emotional. There's so many people that I don't spend physical time with, but I'm emotionally with them all the time because I'm having conversations and debates and, rehashing things and rewriting emails in my head or whatever it might be. And it's like, don't allow myself to become attached by that continuous, constant association, because it leads to fear, it leads to anger, and I don't want to be there. Thank you guys. Leela Mundry wrote, it's easier to be neutral with things like rain or sunshine. So in evaluating our happiness or distress, we can sub if this feeling was just rain, would this reaction be extreme? Krishna says in the beginning of the second chapter, like the coming and going of the winter summer seasons, one should tolerate the coming and going of happiness and distress. We love you guys so much. Thank you all so much for being here. Lane came on and joined us. Thank you, Lane, for being here. Thank you for everybody. We have an email account now, spiritmatters@bhakticenter.org. Please write to us. Tell us your story. Ask us your questions. Let us know how you're doing. We love you and want to hear from you. We'll be back. But today's Friday. That's it. Today's Friday, taking the weekend off. We will be back on Monday, everybody. Please be well. Take care. And we will see you all then. Bye-bye.